were able to win on a case and win on appeal, that the draft notes of a clerk's audit are not public record. They don't become public record until the final version of the audit is published. And so the legislature had to go back and rewrite Statute 119 to incorporate that case.
Interesting.
So I did make a little law in my career. So that's a good little star to hang on your.
Well, very nice. Now, you were also on the Larry King Show.
Yes.
Now, were you in private practice, or were you the prosecutor?
No, I was in private practice.
So how did you ended up on the Larry King Show?
Well, that's a very interesting story. Start out there. I got a phone call from a woman who wanted to talk to me about a probate case, but she would only come to my office after 5, after the office was closed. So I thought, oh boy,
this is interesting.
This is going to be interesting. You're right. But I had just gone into practice.
Sheriff's office.
Exactly. I had just gone into practice, and so I was pretty much taking whatever came through the door. So I agreed to meet with her, and she came in, and she was very demure, very quiet, very attractive woman, but I could tell that she was not really telling me what she really wanted to tell me. And I kept reassuring her about the attorney-client privilege and so forth.
Well, not to cut you off there before you continue the story, tell us about the attorney-client privilege, because most people don't understand it entirely.
Anything that you tell your attorney, the simplified version is anything that you tell your attorney cannot reveal to anyone. Another attorney, a judge.
Not even in the firm itself?
Well, within the firm, you can confer with the other attorneys, but they're also bound by that same attorney-client privilege. And that's one of the benefits of having a firm, is that you have a brain trust to work with, but they're all bound by that privilege as well, and nobody can get that information out of you. And if they do, then you're in big trouble with the bar. So.
Okay, so sorry to cut you off on that. I thought that was something that people should hear it from a lawyer himself.
Yeah, well, it's very important. It's a very important thing, and sometimes you hear things that you don't want to hear.
Yeah, because it's the importance is to make sure that other entities, whether it's government, whether it's other people trying to get the information out of you via other legal means, that makes it difficult to have those conversations if you can then, chirp like a canary.
Well, if that were the case, then no client would ever tell you the truth, and so you wouldn't know, what you were dealing with. So the client has to be able to trust you and tell you the truth, so that you can position them in the best possible posture for them to get a positive or the best possible result from their situation. Otherwise, there would be very little effectiveness in the representation of clients, especially in criminal cases.
I mean, I think many of the places around the world, I don't think that option is available.
No, it's not.
It's like, yeah, you did it. Later.
We're going to subpoena your attorney.
Your lawyer basically just puts you in jail.
Right. So our Constitution is a very important document, and I cringe every time somebody describes it as a living document. I'm a strict constitutionalist. It means what it says and says what it means, and I think we should stick to it.
Yeah, when you look at it, like, which version of the living part are we going to apply today? And that's the whole point, because today it's whoever is in politics running something. Are they the ones that are going to make it apply? The living version of today's note, rather than what it was actually said.
Well, that's right, and I don't want somebody in Washington who's been elected from California to be deciding what the Constitution means and interpreting what the Founding Fathers must have meant when they wrote something. It's not a living document. It's down in black and white, and it says what it means.
Exactly. I mean, it's ink.
It's inked
in
and signed by John Hancock and the rest. So.
Yes, I mean, we know that our representatives today do sign these papers, but the Constitution is the only one that we can see all the signatures.
Yes.
Where today is just another mountain of paper.
Right. And what we have to hope for is that if they enact an unconstitutional law, that it makes its way through the court system, and that a judge, maybe the Supreme Court, some judge will say this is unconstitutional, and that law will be thrown out. And that's what we have to hope for, and that's why we have a separation of powers from the legislative branch to the administrative branch, the judicial branch. And as a lawyer, I'm part of the judicial branch, so it's an important role.
Exactly. All of these pieces make what is America.
Yes, sir.
And why everyone wants to at least maybe not flock here, because not everybody's, most nations do have, good people doing good stuff. Mm-hmm. But very few people are running there.
Right.
And if they are, they're getting kicked out.
That's right. It's, I've had a chance to do some international law and travel, and it's scary when you get into a foreign country and you realize that, you don't have your constitutional rights. And
there's no constitution.
And right. And I've had clients that get upset about something that's happening while we're in a foreign country, and I have to calm them down and say, look, we don't live here. We don't have any constitutional rights here. Somebody could throw us in jail and we could be forgotten. So
exactly, because that's what a living document is.
Yes, that's the living document.
If you want a living document in your Constitution, go to some of these other countries that, draft 1 million is now applying.
Right. Yes.
Where the last draft, which sets you free, doesn't apply, right?
It doesn't apply anymore because we've decided that it doesn't mean that. It means that you can be thrown in jail. So you don't want that.
So when the guys in the wigs, those, judges with wigs, which doesn't make any sense to me, but
me either.
So you were telling me the story about you got on the Larry King show, so. So
okay.
She called
and
met with her.
She finally decided to trust me, and she told me this story that she was married to a man who worked at and was a partner in an auto body shop in Providence, Rhode Island, and that she had 3 kids, and then one day, all of a sudden, the doors were all kicked in on her house, and a SWAT team rushed in and arrested her husband as a mob hitman and took her into protective custody. So she and her children lived in the Providence Police Department jail, a part of the jail that was no longer being used for their own protection. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I stayed here late, to hear this wacko story. And she went on, and she had finally decided that she couldn't take it anymore in the jail, and she had come down to Florida to, her parents lived out in Hillendale, and she was living out there with them and with her kids, and that her husband was being allowed. Now he had decided to become a state's witness, and he was given freedom to leave the jail, to come down and visit, and all these Providence police officers were coming with him and going to Disney World and all, and they had videotape of all this. She brought me all these videotapes. I still have them. But that night I thought, okay, I've wasted 3 hours here. So the next day, I got before I could do anything to check out her story, the Providence State Police were in my office.
How were they track her down?
Yes, they were here, and they said, well, you know, they wanted me to work with them, that she was in a lot of danger because the mob bosses that her husband had put in prison wanted to get to her to kill her so she couldn't repeat whatever stories he had told her, and then they were going to try to get him as well, of course. And so I had this dilemma on my hands, and to get to sort of cut to the chase, it was getting to be a very dangerous situation. During this time period, 11 Providence police officers died under mysterious conditions.
Wow.
Her husband, they let him go whenever he wanted to. He was allowed to check out of jail and go skydiving.
Wow.
And
Providence, that's not in Boston, right?
No, it's in Rhode
governor,
Island.
I know. Just
Yeah.
Governor, he ran for president, I forget where, he furloughed a lot of people.
Yeah. But we
Dukakis, yes.
yeah, Dukakis. Yeah, that was Massachusetts.
Yes.
But we went up to Providence, the client and I, on a couple of occasions to court, and she did testify for the prosecution, which put her in further danger. And so the only thing I could think of that would make her her life, killing her wouldn't be worth anything, was if she told everything she knew to as many people as she could tell. And so we agreed to do all the interviews that would be requested, and there were a lot of local Providence police, television stations would call. We would go down to Tampa where they had satellite hookups, and we would be interviewed.
The local PBS over there? Is it the local PBS? I know that they use that one a lot.
I don't know. And we were on ABC, NBC.
Yeah, okay.
So they would satellite from Tampa back up to Providence, and she did a lot of shows that way. And then Larry King picked up on it and called one day and said, well, his producer.
Now, is it legal? So let's say her story, that she's being hounded and probably contracted to be murdered.
Right.
If the story is in the public domain via Larry King,
right,
does that make it admissible as in a case?
It would, under several different scenarios under the evidence code of Florida anyway. It's a statement recorded. If she was killed, you would have a statement that was recorded of hers. You could use it for impeachment purposes of another witness. But mainly, if the information that she had gets out enough, then killing her is not going to stop. It's not going to hush it up.
Yeah, because it's already out there. What's the point now?
Right. So,
I mean, what I'm saying is, unless if it's not admissible as like a document would be, then the person itself has to be in court compared to the content that she's already laid out.
The Constitution Bill of Rights guarantees that we have the right of cross-examination.
Yes.
So if a witness is dead, and all you have is a videotape of their a digital
testimony
recording of their testimony, and it was on a TV show, then there was no cross-examination. Larry King does not count as a cross-examiner.
That's true.
So it's difficult to get it admitted into evidence because the defendant doesn't have a right to cross-examine the video. But there are circumstances under which the evidence code may allow that video to come in, like I said, for impeachment purposes, for example. But the main thing is that there were no more secrets. All the secrets that she knew, she told to Larry King, Sally Jesse Raphael, Bill O'Reilly. They sent a crew down here, and we set up a little studio in my office. So
Kind of like this.
Just kind of like this. And so we got her story out there enough that then the threats went away. And
is she still alive and kicking?
Yes, she remarried, and
maybe we shouldn't tell that.
no, she's it's no secret. I don't think she's living happily. I hear from her once in a while.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
So do you keep in touch with any of the clients from back then that has some interesting stories?
You know, a lot
outside of this one, obviously.
A lot of people come in and out of your life, and you stay in touch with them for a while, but then time goes on, and you lose track of them. But some of them you stay in touch with maybe because the case lives on, like